Hello, my loves. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new here. Hi, hello-y. My name is Loey. One of my worst traits is that the second that my eyes open in the morning, I'm scrolling on TikTok. It's definitely a habit I'm trying to break this year, but I can't help it. You guys are always tagging me in your favorite scary TikToks, and I love just making videos about the haunted and the spooky side of TikTok. I just love seeing what you guys have tagged me in. It's like our little routine. I like checking in with you guys. And I realized that somebody had tagged me today in a TikTok that talked about the fact that the real Annabelle doll, like the real Annabelle doll, not the one from the movie, not like the prop, the actual haunted doll herself, was being sold on eBay for $5,000. The original TikTok that I saw came from Mad Hatter News and talks about the eBay listing itself, which of course we're gonna go over, but also whether or not this could be true. Because if you're unfamiliar with the haunted doll Annabelle, the actual haunted doll, she is a Raggedy Ann doll that I've done a video on years and years and years ago, maybe you've been around since then, that came into the possession of now famed and revered paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren, who are also like the protagonist characters of the Conjuring series as well as the Annabelle movies. There's a book about Ed and Lorraine Warren's lives and their experiences with the paranormal called The Demonologist, written by their longtime biographer Gerald Brittle. Now in this, Gerald writes about this experience as follows, and like he would have been someone who would have gotten this straight from the source, straight from Ed and Lorraine themselves. Laura Clifton and Deirdre Bernard were 25-year-old nurses who lived together. Laura was engaged to a man named Cal Randall. For Deirdre's 24th birthday, her mother gave her a large Raggedy Ann doll, the size of a 4-year-old child. Soon after, the girls noticed that the doll seemed to be able to move on her own, as they would frequently find her in different positions or even rooms than they left her. Once the girls left the Annabelle doll on Deirdre's bed and came home to find the doll kneeling in the living room. They tried to recreate the doll's kneeling position and were not able to make the doll kneel without it falling over. And that was just the beginning. Annabelle would go on to torture these two girls. They went on to find notes all over their apartment saying things like "help us" or "help Cal," and they had no idea what "help Cal" meant because of course that's Laura's boyfriend and he wasn't in danger, like nothing was going on. Even stranger still, the notes were written in pencil and they didn't have any pencils like just around their apartment. The two of them were pretty logical about this. They just thought that it was someone playing a prank on them, especially with like Laura's boyfriend's name written on these sticky notes. So they booby-trapped their entire place. I've been calling it an apartment. I'm actually not sure if it was an apartment or a house that they lived in together, but either way, they were like full Home Aloneing that stuff. Like they literally had the entire place wired and ready to go off anytime somebody broke in to play a prank on them. And it never happened. Their traps were never set off, but Annabelle continued to do really, really weird stuff. In fact, the doll got even scarier with time, and one of the final straws was when the girls came home to find what looked like blood on Annabelle's cloth body. This is when the girls brought in a psychic medium who told them that the spirit of a little girl named Annabelle Higgins resided on their property. She explained to the psychic that she just was lonely. She wanted to play with the doll. The girls worked as nurses, so they were basically never home, and she actually asked if she could move in to this doll. And this is where the story should have had a happy ending, but it's only where things began, because in reality, there was no Annabelle Higgins. And later the Warrens would determine that something much darker than just the spirit of a child had moved into Annabelle the doll. The Warrens would go on to say that a normal ghost would never be able to do the kinds of things that Annabelle was doing. They couldn't move around dolls like that or interact with and harm the living. Laura would have dreams about Cal being attacked by Annabelle. One night when Laura and Cal were just hanging out at home, just the two of them, they heard a strange noise coming from Deirdre's room. So Cal, being, you know, the doting boyfriend, he gets up to go check. And that's when he sees Annabelle in Deirdre's room. He was a little unnerved by Annabelle, so he turns away, and at that moment, someone attacked him, leaving 7 claw marks on his chest. When the Warrens became involved with this case, they would end up calling a priest who did an exorcism on both Annabelle the doll and the girls, Cal, and the whole dang apartment. Everything was just getting completely exorcised and cleansed. After this, for safekeeping, Ed and Lorraine Warren took the Annabelle doll in, and it has remained in their occult museum ever since, at least until now. Ed Warren passed away in 2006, and his wife Lorraine passed away as well in 2019. After the Warrens' passing, ownership was transferred over of the museum to Tony Spera, who is actually Ed and Lorraine Warren's son-in-law and also a longtime ghost hunter who worked with them on a lot. The museum is now closed with no information on when it will reopen. It's been closed for around 6 years. Cut to 2024, and here we are still with no reopening in sight of the Warren Occult Museum. That museum doesn't just house Annabelle, it houses tons of cursed and paranormal objects, items that were used in Ed and Lorraine Warren's investigations, but Annabelle is one of the most notable objects there. And now supposedly she's being sold on eBay for $5,000. Allow me to finally set the scene for you. Raggedy Ann Annabelle doll locked in case. The haunted real Annabelle. This is being sold for a whopping $5,000 by an eBay seller who has like a 100% rating. This is not just a seller who came out of nowhere, is advertising the Annabelle doll, a la like stolen Disney merchandise or something like that, and then dipping. This is a seller with a history of selling usually like computer parts as far as I could tell, which makes sense with a name like The Computer Dude. In the description it reads, "This was given to us from a client that had a huge Hollywood memorabilia collection. He said that it's very valuable and rare and to do whatever we wanted with it. He had this wrapped and sealed in a pallet box and was in its own room away from everything else for over 40 years. The business card that was with it is the address of John Wayne Gacy's property. Very spooky stuff and not sure what to make of this. Annabelle is an allegedly haunted Raggedy Ann doll. Could this be the original doll or a replica? This one is currently sitting in my neighbor's shed as I don't trust this thing one bit. Please make any offers and take this thing away from us." Honestly, that's really, really, really real of you, The Computer Dude 2010, and I do hope someone buys this from you because it's incredible. If you look at this, it is a massive, and I mean massive, storage case. And in comparing a photo of this here to one of Annabelle like taken within the Warrens museum, they look pretty dang similar. There is that like devil card on the side, the warning positively do not open on the front, and of course it's the same Raggedy Ann doll as far as you can tell. This one's head is kind of leaning down, which is a little weird. On the back, it looks like there is an actual photo of the real Annabelle, as well as some sort of certificate. And if you look at the top there, it almost looks like there's somewhere to plug this case in, which makes me wonder if it lights up in some way, which would also make sense because the actual case that is in Ed and Lorraine Warren's museum lights up to be like red, so it's really spooky and ominous. There was also a note included written in splattered red paint reading, "This doll is very haunted. In case of an emergency, call a priest. Unlock her at your own risk. Sincerely, a friend." Girl is locked up with a padlock. The key is included in this listing. And you can see that there's this hook on the back there that's just barely holding on to the top of her head. Like she's been jostled in transit, but there's still something keeping her attached there, which is really creepy. This is where it gets weird because no, it's definitely not the actual Annabelle doll, because that would be insane. I don't think it looks quite like the real Annabelle doll either. It seems ever so slightly off. Like I think the other one was a different model of Raggedy Ann. But if the story is to be believed, the original owners would have had it for the past 40 years, which just wouldn't have been possible with the real Annabelle doll, who is in the Warrens Occult Museum and has been there historically for decades. So what is this? And why is it on eBay? Something I found really interesting is that upon a quick Etsy search, This is not a rare kind of item, but there is something that sets it apart. First off, look at these listings that I found from Etsy. Other Annabelle dolls literally sold with these little cases, like these mini versions of the Annabelle haunted doll. It's like a little tabletop prop, and they all run for like $250 to $300 something. I think the most I saw one capped out at was around $400 USD, which is still very expensive. But if you look at the size of these, I mean, they're not huge. They're like tabletop props. So where has this other one come from? While this is not the real Annabelle doll being sold, I cannot emphasize enough how strange this is. Because somebody seemingly made like a one-to-one replica of the actual Annabelle holding case with the Raggedy Ann doll inside, and then somebody has had that for 40 years. This is not like some new prop that was developed in someone's garage and, you know, sold last week. If this story is to be believed, if this prop has been around for 40 years, it, number one, is in great condition, really quite impressive. But number two, it's a one-to-one replica of this doll. It's been kept in that condition for like 40 years. That's crazy. And now here it is being sold on eBay. I feel like this seller surely will get a purchase from the right person. That's kind of why I wanted to hop on this right now, because I don't think this thing is gonna be on eBay for long. Well, no, it's certainly not the real Annabelle doll, and I'm pretty sure anybody who'll be spending that kind of money on it already knows that. It's an incredible replica, an absolutely insanely incredible replica, and I'm fascinated to see where it ends up. I don't know if I'd ever buy something like this. Maybe if I had $5 just laying around to buy onto doll with. I don't think most people do, but again, I think that like the right person is going to find this. Like there is going to be a very specific kind of collector and a very specific kind of person who will invest that money in that doll. And what I'm curious about, something I guess like this is just like a theory that I have, and you guys can tell me if I'm like taking it too far, but I wonder if there is paranormal activity around this doll. I always feel like when there are objects like this, like let's say like Robert the doll, for example, like you get like a replica of Robert the doll, you can buy him in a gift shop. I've heard people talk about their Robert the dolls being haunted, having weird paranormal activity around them. A friend of mine had that experience. And I almost wonder if that happens with this doll too. If you literally imprint the idea of it being haunted onto it and some kind of energy does attach itself, or probably more likely, you psych your own self out to believe it's haunted. And I guess it really doesn't matter which is true. Now I clickbaited you a tiny bit because TikTok isn't really going crazy over this in particular, but during my research for making this video, I realized TikTok goes pretty crazy for Annabelle in general. I found this video from christopherkiely in which he talks about how they took Annabelle out of her case again. When they took Annabelle out of her case because they needed to clean the interior of it, I feel like this was like a few years ago, they needed to like clean it out, it needed some repairs, like it's this giant case that's meant to hold this haunted doll. They had to take her and put her in her original case for a while to contain her. And everyone on TikTok was talking about that. Like, no, please do not let Annabelle out in the year of our Lord and Savior 2022, or, you know, whatever it was.
They just took the Annabelle doll out of her case again. Yeah, you know, this doll, one of the most haunted dolls in reported history. I think many stories of people seeing her or even touching her when they're not supposed to and having tragic things happen to them. I mean, the last person that touched her was driving their car and ended up wrecking their whole entire car and almost losing their life, and claimed to have seen Annabelle in their back seat, after of course leaving the museum. $1 million question for me is, how is this wooden box holding her in? Now, I completely understand that the boxes are blessed, but if Annabelle is as strong as people say she was, how is this box holding her? And what is the whole point of moving the doll? Now, my question is, could these Annabelle movies be lying about how actually strong she is? Because in these movies, she's absolutely insane. And you have this man moving the Annabelle doll as instructed by his boss, and he's now being blessed. Supposedly in this video, the man was blessed prior to entering the room, and now he's putting holy water on his hands. Now, my man was just wearing gloves when he moved the Annabelle doll. You couldn't pay me enough to move this doll.
So I'm waiting to see if TikTok kind of picks this up. Like I said, I've seen Mad Hatter News's video on it. She was the one who broke it for me. and I haven't seen too much else, but you guys have been tagging me in mass in her comments. So I thought I would get on here and talk a little bit about Annabelle being sold on eBay with you guys. I'm very curious what you guys think of this. It's a prop, right? Like, it's definitely a prop. There's no way it's actually Annabelle. And yet, like, what is it doing there? Why is it being sold on eBay? And who did it come from in the first place? I don't know if we'll ever get answers, but I wanted to share this creepy find with you nonetheless. This was a bit of a more relaxed video from me, really like spur of the moment. I decided I was gonna film it this morning. Usually when I film videos for you guys, I have topics planned out like fairly long in advance. So I really hope you enjoyed this. If you do, I can make more just like, I don't know, like spooky news videos as they come up on my own TikTok For You page. You know, I love to be your spooky TikTok lady. And if you ever want to help influence one of these videos, you can tag me in your scary finds over on TikTok at LoeyBugXO. Also give me a follow. I make daily short form spooky content on there too. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, go to give me a thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. A special thank you to my subscribers who are members of the channel. If you guys want to join the channel memberships and get extra members exclusive perks, including members only videos, my members only podcast that I have for my love bug tier, and so much more, you can click that little join button somewhere around the screen. We would love to have you. An extra special thank you to my VIP loves for their generous and continued support of the channel. I love and appreciate you all very, very much. I love you all very much, and I will see you in my next video. Stay spooky out there. Things are getting crazy on the scary side of TikTok. Okay, bye.